Hi everybody, this is Brian Koo with another ROK video, bringing you some very big changes to Rise of Kingdoms that is hot off the presses. Shout out to Jason in the Handsome Devils who found this. So I just went into the game and went to that pin board there, opened this up. I went to official. They've got the new update for Hallows Eve. And then when you click all on this update, you're going to see a bunch of very new concepts to the game. So here is what this looks like on mobile phone. And we are just going to go through these changes together and talk about what's going on. I think right off the bat, I'll say that these changes look like they are going to modify the existing combat system. It's talking about formations here. 7 new formations are included in this release. Governors can assign specific formations to a commander in combat, each conferring unique battle performance bonuses and added strategic depth. So what's interesting here is that I don't know if these formations are going to be the same as what's happening in the power-up KVKs, where, you basically just set a couple different formations and, enemies can not walk through your marches if you set a certain formation. It almost feels to me like this could maybe be passive buffs instead. And I'll just talk about that as we go on with some of these other changes. Now, what's supplementing the formation system is the armament system. So here's what they say about armaments. We've also released 28 unique armaments that can be equipped to various formations. Each type is imbued with a set of randomized attribute buffs upon acquisition, with a chance of an inscription buff for epic and legendary armaments, an even stronger boost. There are nearly 100 different types of inscriptions available, each of which will enliven combat or place more strategic options at your fingertips. And then the third point here is recycling. Governors have the option of recycling excess armaments at courier stations for gold or silver coins, which can be used in turn to purchase armament chests and supplies containing inscriptions. Number 4, inscribing. Governors have the option of reinscribing new inscriptions onto armaments to vary their inscription buffs. And then there's a new building. We've added the State Forum. Unlock the State Forum to enable formations. The State Forum is also where governors can go to travel and accept dispatch quests. Simply complete the quest alongside the desired commander to gain more armaments and great rewards. Okay, so the first thing I'll point out here is simply complete the quest alongside the desired commander to gain more armaments. So it sounds to me like armaments are going to be applied to actual commanders. And armaments sound to me like they're just going to be attribute buffs that, enhance whatever commander has that armament. And there's going to be a spending and long-term building process with armaments because you can crit your armaments with inscription buffs when you're building an epic or legendary armament. And there are nearly 100 different types of inscriptions available, which will enliven combat. So I can't imagine they're all going to be plus health, plus defense, or plus attack buffs. It sounds to me like maybe some of these will be a passive skill that a commander would have, or maybe even some of them will be active skills, like an additional second active skill on a commander. Because mostly because of the word they're using, armaments, which is like a type of weapon. Armaments just sounds like an active, it sounds like an active, thing that a commander could use. And the real question here is, how do armaments interact with formations? They do say that you attach the armament to the formation. Okay, and there are 28 unique armaments, actually. There are 28 armaments and 100 inscriptions. And so maybe the inscriptions are like attribute buffs or stat buffs, and then I'm guessing the armaments are something a little bit more unique, a little more active. And the whole question here is about the formations, and whether formations are something that are actively happening on the battlefield, or whether each of your marches is, you assign a formation to each march, and that gives them like some sort of buff or like counter to other formations. So, maybe you would apply a defensive formation to your Pakal Herald, and that march would then have more defense or have more counterattack damage. And maybe you would apply a ranged formation or an attack formation to your Boudica YSG, and that formation would be weak when it's being attacked, but it would do more damage, or it would do actual ranged attacks. I will say that in another game, Lords Mobile, formations are basically passive, and like one formation will counter another formation. And so it's like a strategical thing that you kind of plan ahead of time of like, what is the enemy going to be? What formation is the enemy going to be in? And then what formation do I want to use to counter that? That's more of the passive side. But what we've seen in Rise of Kingdoms so far is formations are an active thing where they affect what's actually happening on the battlefield. Where, for example, you can go into a certain formation and then enemies can literally not move through your marches. So let's keep reading along with the rest of this update, and then maybe do a little more speculating at the end. Now, the next thing here is the new Season of Conquest story, King of the Nile Pioneer event, coming soon. So, with the death of King Osiris, the Holy Scepter will soon fall into the hands of the mighty King Seth. But Horus, god of the sky and son of Osiris, leads his brave warriors into battle to thwart Seth's designs. Reiterating his right to succession, Horus hopes to carry on the glorious rule of the Age of Osiris. Seth's followers stand in his way, vowing to defend Seth's claim to the throne. Who will become the king of ancient Egypt and take their place in history? Kingdoms participating in the Season of Conquest now have the opportunity to pioneer a whole new story, King of the Nile. Governors will be battling for your camp's glory by the banks of the ancient Nile. Experience a new matchmaking system, seasonal strategies, and other new twists in King of the Nile. Now, I'm guessing this refers to a new map that I originally saw on Chisgle's channel, where it's like a smaller map, and I think you kind of fight one-on-one battles against another camp initially, and then maybe later on, if you progress through that camp, you fight other camps. If I remember correctly, it's sort of like it's like a smaller map, but it still has 4 camps on it. I think that's what I remember. So let's look at what the features of this King of the Nile story are. New camp mode. Governors battle to destroy enemy holy sites as one of 2 camps. So it's maybe only 2 camps in this story. Camp Seth and Camp Horus, which will emerge true King of the Nile. So yeah, so this is actually a 1 versus 1 story with only 2 camps involved. Team matchmaking. We've added new rules around free team-ups when signing up for the matchmaking phase. Kingdoms participating in the story can now be assigned to a specific kingdom class allowing the formation of their own unique team. Take a sip of water here. So this is pretty straightforward, I think, which is basically that when you sign up for this story mode, or perhaps when you sign up for any story mode, you can pick what size of a camp you want by the specific kingdom class. And you can also pick other kingdoms, other specific kingdoms to team up with in that KVK. So you can pick your own camp size, and then you can also pick some kingdoms to team up with. I think this is interesting. I think this is I don't know. It's gonna like make the game even more imbalanced, where like strong kingdoms are gonna team up with other strong kingdoms, and then weak kingdoms are gonna be stuck teaming up together. I think what will happen is that Lilith will then match those strong teams against each other, which is something they already seem to do in KVK. A strong A kingdom will get matched up against another strong A kingdom, and then a weak A kingdom will be matched up with a weak A kingdom. I think those things are already happening, and they'll probably just continue that on. Seasonal strategies. We've added a new seasonal strategies feature. Governors can choose to enhance one of 3 distinct categories of strategies: boosting battlefield performance, mapping army strength, or supporting logistics. This is also something that Chisel referred to in a video a few weeks ago, where like early in the KVK you can select one of these strategies. It sounds like one is probably open field performance, one is probably rally and garrison strength, and then I would guess that supporting logistics has to do with gathering speed and maybe some other things. Maybe they'll add some other logistics to what's happening. Maybe like healing in battle, stuff like that. I think seasonal strategies is a little janky, to be quite honest. I don't know why Lilith would limit what we are good at. That's not really improving the game. It's sort of like restricting our options, where if you don't select mapping army strength, then like you could maybe never be a rally or a garrison captain, even in sort of emergency situations, or just the situations where you're like the best person available. I don't know why they would limit us with this. New map. We've added a new Lost Kingdom map and terrain for Governor's Valiant new epics. Yeah, so I think this is probably the new Season of Nile map, basically. And yeah, so that's pretty much the whole update there. To summarize, it is going to be they've added formations, they've added armaments, they've added a new map, and they've added some settings to the new map, such as being able to select the size of the team you're on, and maybe pick some kingdoms to play along with. So I think the real question here is going to be around formations and armaments. And I think, first of all, let's be real. It's been a while since Lilith added something where whales could spend money and get an advantage. I think the biggest whales in the game have at this point largely maxed out their equipment. They have all the commanders. They have, in many cases, years of speed ups and years of resources to fight with in KVKs. I think really a lot of the spending on the whale level that's happening is like deleting troops so that your power goes down, so that you can, so that your Imperium Kingdom can bring in more players. I think that's almost what people are spending on these days after they've maxed out their equipment. So it's sort of obvious that, this is going to have a spending element to it, and, whales will be able to acquire armaments faster than free-to-play players, and they'll, roll for these inscription buffs more often. I don't think we should be surprised this happened. We can be, bummed out that this happened, but it was just inevitable. My whole thing is whether these things are going to be passive or active. the power-up KVK has gotten mixed reviews at this point. And to me, the basic combat system in Rise of Kingdoms is quite good. It's fun, right? It's like you control your marches, you charge into the enemy, you oftentimes bounce back out quickly. It's just this sort of dance back and forth on the battlefield where you're trying to get your active skills cast and do more damage to your enemy than they do to you. Like, it's simple, but it's also accessible and fun and, satisfying. Like, a lot of us really enjoy the open field in this game right now, and this is... I mean, how much is this going to change the current open field fighting that we're accustomed to? I think that remains to be seen. And, they're probably going to keep giving us the option to play sort of... Well, so here's the thing about this, right? We've had the chance lately to either play the new power-up KVK or do the sort of old-school heroic Anthem and Season of Strife of the Eight KVKs. So we've sort of been able to avoid these new additions to the game that Lilith has made. But I don't think we're going to be able to avoid formations and armaments. I think this is going to be like a part of every KVK, basically. And so what does it say here? Governors can assign specific formations to a commander in combat, each conferring unique battle performance bonuses and added strategic depth. Yeah, so I think this is going to be... These formations are going to be active, because it says that you can change the formations while you're in combat. So, you might go into it fighting melee with bonuses to your attack, but then you might decide that, you want to go into ranged combat, and that will, give you different buffs and debuffs, but you'll be able to attack from a distance. It sounds like this is going to be just part of everyday combat in the game, and it's going to be enhanced and modified by the armaments you put on. So this is going to be a very big change to the game. And I think this is an interesting way for Lilith to modify their game, quite frankly. The challenge for Lilith is that it's very hard for them to add a brand new event to the game, like a new, let's say they added like a 1 day or an 8-hour battle with multiple kingdoms across like various altars of darkness with like really good rewards at the end. The problem with doing that is that it would cause people to spend a lot of like resources and speed ups to heal during that event, and that would disrupt the delicate and well-tuned balance they currently have, where like a lot of us have just barely enough speed ups and resources to get through KVK, and then we build those resources and speed ups back up and do it again. It's like a nice balance that they have with that right now. And so they couldn't really add a new event, but they had to add something for players to spend on. And so they had to add the new stuff to the combat system. Even though the combat system of ROK is very good, and even though it's probably the best part of the game, in order to get people to spend on new stuff, they had to add that new stuff to the combat system. And what it's going to be is it's going to be formations, armaments, and inscriptions. And we're just going to have to see if that works out, if that makes the game better. I think if we're lucky, it will make the game not worse. If we're lucky, it'll be a different combat system that has more depth and is approximately just as fun and just as satisfying. But we will have to see. I think at this point, my confidence level in Lilith is pretty much like 50-50. They've built a very good game. It's a balanced game. The pay-to-win aspect has never been overbearing. I haven't had to spend all that much money on this game to be a pretty competitive player. So they haven't really gouged us in any way. They seem to be building a game that they want to succeed in the long term. They've done a better job of that than other kingdom building games. The commanders have been, by and large, very well balanced throughout the game's history. But on the other hand, I think a lot of Lilith's changes in recent years, be it the new story modes like March of the Ages or Desert Conquest, or the power-up KVK, it feels like Lilith doesn't know their game all that well. It feels like they don't really know what is best about their game, which is the combat system, because they keep modifying. They keep trying to change the parts of the game that are best, which is like fight in the open field and rallies and garrisons. So yeah, I'm really 50-50 on this one. It could work out well, but let's be real about it. These changes are likely happening because whales need something new to spend on, and because the game is getting a bit stale at this point, and we're all sort of looking for new things to build, new things to aspire to. And I guess we're also going to have to figure out a new way to apply strategy and tactics to the game. Even though the existing system was fine, I think most of us would have been fine just continuing to play the existing system for at least a few years. And, Lilith could have maybe built some things around the existing system rather than changing it. So we'll see what happens. Let me know in the comments what you think about these changes, both your prediction for how it turns out, but also what you think this stuff actually means and what formations and armaments are actually going to look like. Yeah, more to come in the future. Thanks again to Jason for finding this information. And as I go back into the game and scroll out on our chill little home kingdom here. Oh, I should probably put the alliance stuff on. Hey, I will see you all on the flip side.